Today, we're honored to have Laurie Gerber, a life and relationship coach with over 20 years of experience. Dedicated to helping women create authentic, fulfilling lives, Laurie's fierce honesty and commitment to truth have empowered countless of women to build meaningful, honest relationships. Known for her no-nonsense approach, Laurie excels in guiding women through the challenges of dating, communication, and confidence, areas that really resonate with our single mum community. Let's welcome Laurie as she shares her invaluable insights. Welcome, Laurie. Thank you so much for being here.
Warmly welcomed by the moms. My favorite. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's a topic that gets raised very frequently in the Single Mum Vine, which is a community on Facebook that we run. And that is the topic of relationships and will I be able to find someone, and will I ever meet someone, or is there any nice guys left in the world? And what if I do, what do I do? So it's really wonderful to have all your amazing years of experience and insight to shed some light on these questions that we throw at each other that we don't know the answers to.
It's one of my favorite topics. It's such a, if you are a mom, you know how to be selfless and you know how to give and you know how to love. The question is, do you know how to receive it? And are you willing to give it another go if it didn't go well? And I find that to be a beautiful conversation to have. And if I can help just one woman believe in love again and want it for herself and go chase it down for herself, then I feel good about how I spent my day.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's amazing. You really resonate with the values of Beanstalk Mums. So I'm really glad that you're here. So I guess with the 20 years that you've got behind your belt in the dating world, what inspired you to focus on empowering women in their pursuit of love?
Because I came to a coach about 20 some years ago now to work on my business. She took one look at my relationship, my marriage, and my parenting, and she said, "Oh, you're a mess. You can't even think straight about your career. Let's get your life stabilized. Let's get
Wow.
your foundation stabilized," which at that time I had two young kids and a husband who I was in a near divorce situation with. And that made me understand how foundational love could be.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't wanting to think it was foundational. I was wanting to think my career and my kids were my foundation, as I'm sure many of you can relate to.
Really?
But she forced me, when she said, "I think you're going to lose this relationship if you don't treat it," that woke me up, and I had to make a really serious decision in that moment where to focus first. And I did focus on rebuilding my relationship and rebuilding that foundation, which then immediately helped my self-confidence. It helped my just day-to-day peace and clarity. It helped my parenting, my relationship to my children, then my relationship to my parents and my family. And so it restabilized my life very profoundly. And then I could think about sort of my next level of dream in my career and my business and stuff. So that's what tipped me off to maybe love's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I coached for 20 years. I coached couples, I coached daters, I coached time management, I coached everything for 20 years because I'm so inspired by this methodology. Flash forward to now, I am of the age where everyone I know is divorced or, just got divorced a while ago, is going to get divorced. There are really very few. I got to watch 20 years of relationships where the majority fell apart. So then the people now in my age demographic are single again. And I found that very inspiring because now no longer do we have these middle to late 30 somethings that are dying to get pregnant and have a child because they just have to fulfill that norm, quote unquote, or that desire, or both. To now we have a woman who doesn't need to fulfill that norm, who
Mm.
has their kid or kids, who probably that's the love of their life or the reason they sold out and love to begin with to some extent. And now they get to relook and think, what do I want for myself? What do I want for myself? Now that I know I can do this on my own, I know I don't need it. I have this other human or humans that I love and care about and will take care of me. Now, what do I actually want in the realm of love? So then it got so much sexier and juicier to me to help women do that easier, actually, because there's way less of a reason to sell out, which was always my issue with coaching daters. So it just, that's sort of how the evolution came of where I focus and with whom I focus.
Wow, that is quite an inspirational journey. And I certainly see the shift of those divorce rates coming through as well. And it's interesting that you say that once we sold out and we've ended up with a child, now we finally put ourselves first. I find that's really interesting how, from what I'm observing, especially within the group, and my friends I have a large base of single mum friends, that concept of me comes first or my needs come first didn't originate till that love was plugged by the love of the child. And now I've got this little person looking at me. So I must do a good job,
And that is the beauty of having a child. You really have to reflect on who you are through their eyes because they will do as you do, not
Mm,
as you say. They will absorb everything you think and feel, not just what you say or do. So it is this enormous moment of truth to go, who do I want to be? What do I want to show them? What do I want to show them is possible? What do I want them to think love is? What do I want them to think partnership is? And if you were brave enough to get a divorce, you probably were taking a stand for your child that they see a better model. And now here you are better off for not saying this is the best it can be, but now you have to go, okay, well, what is actually the best it could be? What do I want to design for myself to be the thing that my child now thinks is possible?
true, very true. And so there's that been that shift in the relationship status, but in the regards to coming back into the dating world, how how has that, what's been the shift in that you've seen in modern dating?
Well, it depends on how long you've been out of the dating. If you've been out, like a lot of my clients have been out for 15, 20 years, it's changed quite a lot in the digital age. But a lot of what has changed also, if you're somebody who, was in your teens, 20s, and you really could just have fun and fling and learn and play, that's a very, very fun vibe of freedom, and you can make mistakes and you can try things and you're not pressured. And then there's your 30s where oftentimes women in a lot of social contracts feel a pressure to find
Mm.
the person, right? Which that's where a lot of the selling out comes in, where there's feels like a time crunch. And then if you got out of the dating scene then and you're coming back in now without that pressure, there's suddenly a freedom again to go back to like your 20s or your teens where you could play and learn, which is an excellent opportunity, I think, and should be taken. But if you've never done digital dating, oh, holy moly, you're going to be completely overwhelmed by the enormity of choices between the dating sites and the people on the dating sites, as well as the different kind of attention and different kind of skills you're going to need to build to be able to date in that if you came from a history of only ever having dated IRL in real life.
Yeah.
Very different skills needed, very different aptitudes, very different expectations. It's completely different.
It's almost like a skill, like you're saying, that needs to be completely relearned.
It's the same thing as applying for a job. I mean, in my day, you literally would mail a resume. You type it on your typewriter, put it in an envelope with a stamp and mail it to someone. And then maybe you'd call and say, did you get my resume? I mean, that is just not how my children are applying to jobs. It's completely different. I would have to learn a whole new skill set to even apply for a job today.
I'm thinking that's going to require a lot of headspace, a lot of time, and a lot of investment. So it's not for someone just to jump in and dabble in. I think and potentially this might be, you talk about dating like you mean it. Could you explain what that mindset looks like? And am I kind of understanding that connection?
Well, here's something I can tell women who are thinking maybe I should just dabble or just try it or just dip my toe in. I have a very serious warning for you. It doesn't usually go well, right? It would be kind of like, oh, I think I'll go to a foreign country and just dabble with speaking the language. You might learn a bunch of the language, right? But I would imagine going to a country where you don't know the language and trying to fit in immediately without having learned the language would be highly stressful. and a lot of misunderstanding, and it would be very fatiguing because you'd have to be extremely alert to so many things because you don't know the language.
Yeah.
So it is very much like that. And whereas I think that trial and error or learn by doing is really good in certain kinds of learning, I do not think trial and error learned by doing in dating in the digital age is a good idea because there are it's a little bit like getting thrown in the pool if you don't know how to swim. You are going
Mm,
to swallow a lot of water. You might fear you're drowning and you'll be exhausted and you will not want to get in the pool again. And
mm,
that's the main when women come to me, often they have dabbled or tried, they've been ghosted, they've been hurt, they've been overwhelmed, they've been scammed, they've been heartbroken before they even cared, before they even had a strategy. All
yeah.
that has happened. So understandably, they now want to sit on the bench for years or decide that they don't really care or, something I've heard many times, it's not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. So I really warn against diving in before you're ready. So there's your own mental, emotional preparations. And before you have some basic skills in place and some basic strategies in place around how to use the sites, or else you'll go under. The undertow will suck you out.
I love how you use the phrase strategy. It's almost making me think of, business. It's, what happened to bumping into the man that you love and the romantic feels and being whisked away? The way you present it, it sounds very strategic. Exactly. We just said it's having a strategy. It's almost,
Yeah.
but I suppose as with anything in life, if you want something specific, you kind of need to build a goal
Well,
around it. Is that how that?
I believe in the spiritual principle that if you believe you're gonna get something, you get it. So I do believe in bumping into the man of your dreams when you walk out of your house. I do not think my strategy and preparation
Okay.
precludes that or contradicts that. And for me, everything that's ever happened in my business, for example, has felt magical. But I also had a strategy and skills, right? So I actually think that the strategy and skills is in a way a placebo, right? It is a powerful factor, it helps. What my strategy and tools really help you do is limit your fatigue
Mm.
and limit your frustration and your disappointments.
Okay.
But magic is still in play, right? It's still in play that you need to be open, you need to believe in it, you need to keep your eyes open and up, and you really will bump into the man of your dreams. That's part of it too. It's both. And in order for you to convince yourself that it's going to work, you have to do some work. You have to do some studying, some strategy, some visioning, just like you wouldn't expect to wake up one day and 20 customers come to you and say, could you please deliver XYZ service, right? You'd have to actually have a website, for
Yes.
example.
That's yeah, okay. That makes sense and it resonates. It's great. That's what I'm hoping for. But I've just been putting all my eggs into one basket of actually just walking out the door and bumping into him. So that's
That, and especially if that's how you believe it happens, then it really can. A very dear friend of mine literally met her husband on the street and she bumped into him more than once while she was out and about in New York City, and eventually they married.
what about though with I sort of I'm tempted to go deep into me, but this
Feel
is not
free.
about me. This is about the mums in our community. And a lot of them, they're still healing from past relationships. So what are the most common obstacles that people face when looking for love again? And how can they start overcoming those barriers?
We could talk a whole hour about this, but there is, I call it a divorce detox. So there really are divorces that are clean, they're over, they're done. We're so glad we got a divorce. It was good while it lasted, but then it was not good anymore. And we set each other free and we're still the best of friends and we co-parent, but we're happy, so much happier apart. I mean, that's the dream, right? That's the dream of how you would sound after a divorce. And then there's everything else, which is some form of what I would call you're in a stage of detoxing. So something was toxic about it. You haven't fully released it all so that you feel clean and clear. If you've ever detoxed from alcohol, sugar, drugs, I don't know if you've ever been to a colonic or you've ever had any sort of experience of a detox, it does not feel pleasant.
Mm,
It feels very uncomfortable because what's happening is Your body is bringing up everything that doesn't work, that is poison, that doesn't belong in your body, and flushing it out. So once it's out, you feel fabulous. But when it's coming up and exiting, you do not feel as fabulous. So if you've not been through that phase of your breakup, you still owe it, right? No one gets out without a detox, right? You have to detox something if it wasn't working for you before you can fully be rid of it and no longer addicted to it. So there are stages of a detox that sound a lot like a sugar detox or an alcohol detox. You have to admit you have a problem, that you're still in a relationship with this person, even if you're not in a relationship with the person.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a mental relationship or a stalking relationship or an emotional abuse relationship or whatever. Number two, you have to clear the space of that person. So you have to get rid of the things that remind you or trigger. Because as I say to so many of my clients, if the position, love of my life, is not an open position, no one will come to fill it. If it is still filled by a ghost, someone who got away, someone who hurt you, someone who you're still talking to every day in your head, the position's not open. You have to actually release and let go of that ex. You have to set a time limit for no communication. If you have to co-parent, obviously you'll have some technical communications you have to do, but aside from that, you need to quarantine that and not engage in extra communications that take your attention. And you need the support of a community and what I would call a sponsor, like in AA. A coach or a buddy or a therapist can be your person that you call when you're gonna go off the wagon and call the person, or go off the wagon and send them a 17-page text about everything they did wrong, or you're going to go back into that dynamic with them. So you need that support system. You need to get good. This is 5. There's 6 steps of a divorce detox. The 5th one is you need to be able to hear the loops you do in your own head, because that's really going to be your biggest opponent, is you yourself in your own head, doing the loops of regret, of anger, of just, all the grieving loops.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hear those in your head. Well, have a buddy you can confess that to, or a coach or a sponsor, where you can just keep letting that go until you become familiar with it enough so that you can know what it is and not engage it. And then lastly, you have to step up your self-care. And I'm sure you speak about this all the time. If your tank is not full, you cannot give to your child. You certainly cannot give to a new love. So that means you need to be eating in a way you're proud of, drinking in a way you're proud of, sleeping in a way you're proud of, meditating or doing a spiritual practice in the way that you're proud of, moving your body in a way that you're proud of. And then, hair, skin, whatever else you like to do to feel beautiful and sexy. Those are the 6 steps of the detox. Simple, but not easy.
No, and I have to sort of pick up on one thing, and you did speak to it briefly in regards to the co-parenting thing. But in step 1 and 2, I've already started to hit a block in my mind, going, well, I can't. I can't even do this detox because this person is in my space 24/7 in regards to the child. Even if I have my boundaries, and for example, and this is not potentially me, but I hear this a lot, that ex encroaches back in or encroaches through the child, and it's almost as if there's this ball and chain. And I apologize for referring to them that way, but it's just something that you cannot. You've separated, you've moved, you thought that would be it, but it's far from it.
No, not at all. No. And again, when you're co-parenting, that person's in your life forever. So you really do need to figure out who that person is going to be in your life and what functions they're going to serve. There are a couple of things that work in your favor. One is that you're not living together anymore. You don't have to answer your phone. You don't have to answer a text. You don't have to answer the door. And 2 is you have the law. And unfortunately, sometimes we need the law to set certain parameters, solve certain disputes, make certain decisions for us. And that's why the law is there, because sometimes 2 people really disagree in an issue that has to get sorted out. And I try to remind people, I mean, I know it's so hard when you don't have the law working as quickly or the decisions coming as quickly as you need them to. So it's important to have faith that there is a quote unquote just or fair answer that the law can give you. And in the meantime, you have to trust the best advice you can get and the best intuition you have about what's right. Unfortunately, humans get off on fighting. Humans get off on being right. Humans get off on blaming humans get off on drama.
Hmm.
I could throw a tantrum just to eat a piece of cake, right? Like, just for starters, right? So it's there are really difficult situations, and it is very difficult to quarantine a relationship that is required in order for you to take care of your child. However, a lot of the drama and a lot of the unnecessary difficulty is because we are not disciplined with sticking to a rule. If we say, I'm dropping him off at 6, you're dropping him off at 6. If we say we're not going to talk at drop off, we don't talk at drop off. If we say we'll communicate only through text, we communicate only through text. If we say we're going to go to this therapy appointment, we go to the therapy appointment. So when your integrity is 100% with your boundaries, with your rules, with what you say, then you can expect 100% from them. So focus on yourself first. And if they don't give 100%, you don't get to bring your kid in on that. You don't get to play the blame game. You get to keep trying strategies like you would in a business, including using the legal system to get it to go your way. But you don't get to break down and have a temper tantrum and eat a cake if you don't believe in eating a cake. Okay? Does that
I
make
love it.
sense?
Yes, absolutely. And so what I'm hearing there is very much, it's almost becoming, it's again working within yourself and working on your own mindset and making that decision. This is going to be enough. And no matter what, that separation, even if it's not physical, that separation is mental, where you put in that block in the right place, where, no matter what that other person does, it's like a, gray rock method or a water off a duck's back. And you just
Right.
learn
And
from
that's
an age.
probably what you needed anyway, or you wouldn't have gotten the divorce, right? You needed to learn that boundary anyway. So let's hurry up and learn it. Let's hurry up and get your lesson learned. Because at the end of the day, you can't change the other person. You can't, they may change inspired by you, inspired by the situation. Often they do, because once there's a consequence, people do tend to change. But what's really important is that you honor your word, you honor your commitment, you honor your personal integrity, because what a child needs is one example, not two. It's nice to have two, but the child does not need two. They need one example of a happy human, one example of a human who's reliable, one example of a human who pursues work they love and love. So if you want your kid to believe in happy career, happy health, happy love, you have to model that. It has to be the most important thing. So you being happy in your body, in your career or your work, and in your love life, that's the nicest thing, best thing you can do for your kid. It is not required that you change your kid's other parent. It is not required that you make that other parent be an ideal parent. It is not required that you still love that other parent. It is not required that you have a great relationship with that other parent. What
Mhm.
that child needs is to see a successful, put that in quotes because it's whatever that is for you,
Mhm.
a happy, fulfilled human. And usually that's to do with health, work in the world, and love. Those are the things that people really want for their children. And so that is what you should chase for yourself for best results for your kid, right? Do not catastrophize that your kid's going to be messed up if you can't get your partner to show up for
Mhm.
his dates. It just isn't true that that ruins your child. Might ruin your kid's relationship with their parent, but it doesn't ruin your child.
That's a very valid and very good point right there. And I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, we get so preoccupied with keeping that relationship potentially open with the ex for the sake of our child, thinking if I can influence him, then that child will be better off. But in the end, it really doesn't benefit anyone at all.
If it works, great, right? This is again about strategy, right? Like if your strategy is working, please continue. But if your
Yes.
strategy is not working, be a good, smart business person and pick a new strategy, right? So if, nagging your partner, reminding your partner, threatening your partner, guilt tripping your partner, if any of that stuff is working, great. If it is not working, what you focus on is making sure your child has a person to depend upon, a person who loves them, a person who wants to know who they are, and a person who's demonstrating a happy, healthy life. That it's just more important and more doable.
Well, exactly, since, you're the only one that you have any control over. So there you go. That's that A person, isn't it? Get yourself sorted and right.
That's readiness, right? Because again, that's readiness for dating. Because until you're square with your kid and you think your kid's gonna be okay, it's really hard to think about dating. And until you think I'm okay, right? Like I'm okay, I made the right decision. Person is no longer my responsibility or my burden. My only responsibility and burden is to my child. I'm doing well with that. I'm doing well with myself. I'm honoring my commitments to myself. Okay, now I can think, would I like to bring another person in on this scene? Would it be fun to have a playmate? Would it be fun to have a partner? Now I can
Yes.
think about
Now you can actually give it proper energy. So you've gone through this detox, you've got your mind straight, you've got your priorities right. You start looking in this crazy digital world
it.
at getting out there and meeting new loves. I've heard that you talk before that the first 3 dates are crucial for setting the tone
Yes.
of a
Yes.
relationship. So, what is the art? What's the art of
Well,
navigating those initial interactions?
I want to say one more step though, which is you have to start to articulate what you need very clearly, what you want and what you need. In other words, what you're looking for plus what is a deal breaker, like absolutely no more alcoholics or absolutely no more dating long distance or out, whatever it is that you've learned, you need to solidify it in writing and tell all your friends. So they're really, when you have a kid at home, there's really no time to waste with making the same mistakes again, right? All your mistakes should be new ones, right? Like anything you already learned, write it down,
Absolutely.
tell all your friends, put post-its on the mirror, put it on your dating pro, whatever you need to do to remind yourself you're not doing that again. So that's about what not to do. What to do is focus on what it is you really want. And a big mistake a lot of women make getting back into dating after a divorce is they think they want something and it's not really what they want. So I almost call it like a proxy. Like you think you want tall or you think you want decisive or you think you want rich or you think you want whatever, whatever you think you want, or you think you want a guy with the same age kids you have, right? You come up with some idea, right? A
Hmm.
certain body type, a certain career, a certain location even, and you fixate on it because you think it's like the lucky thing, the right answer that's going to make you happy because you don't want to do it the way you did it before. And it's just not the case. So I do a lot of work with women to get them to really clarify what I want: someone who wants to have honest conversations. I want someone I feel safe with. I want someone who wants to have sex. I want someone who likes kids and wants to be around kids. Right? You don't need to have someone who has kids the same age as your kids. You don't even need to be with someone who has kids. You need to be someone who thinks kids are a value add, right? So really figuring out how to say what you want is very important because if the GPS is not programmed to the address, you're going to be going through a lot of back streets that you don't need to be going through, or God forbid, programming it to the wrong destination, ending up there and going, "What? I thought I was going to church." Like I end up here. So yeah. So you really need to, that's part of the preparation. And then the strategy, as I keep saying, strategy, 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 I have what's called the 3-date strategy. It's one of my hacks that I use with my clients, which is you clarify your desires, head, heart, and hoo-ha. That is your practical desires, your emotional desires, and your chemistry desires. You clarify those carefully and publicly if you're in group coaching with me or private coaching with me. And then you only have 3 dates to find out if someone fulfills your criteria: head, heart, and hoo-ha, 8 or above on a scale of 1 to 10. And we come up with your specific list of questions that is your specific list of questions based on your criteria that you're going to ask in these first 3 dates to determine whether the person fits the criteria or not. And you get in and out fast. This is how you avoid getting ghosted. This is how you avoid dating fatigue. You are not shopping to see if they like you. You're
Hmm.
not shopping to just see what it's like. This is what happens when people dabble. It's
Hmm.
like it's not great. Everyone's got a lot of choices. They can just mess around. It's not that people are not bringing their A game if you're not bringing your A game. So you bring your A game to these 3 dates. You're very on purpose. You bring your list of questions. You learn how to answer them in an interesting way. You will learn how to ask them in an interesting way. That's a whole other hour we could do. And so by the end of these 3 dates, you know whether or not this person gets a fourth. And if they're not an 8 or above on all 3 H's, they don't get a fourth date. So you don't start to fall in love. You don't start to go, oh, well, I invested, so I have to make sure the stock goes
Hmm.
up. You don't start smoking hopium, as they call it, right? I'll fix him, I'll change him, it'll get better. He's about to get a job, he's about to move, he's about,
Yeah,
no, it's okay. There's many, many, many options. You do not need to settle. You already tried that. You don't need to do that again. So you very much on purpose architect or design those 3 dates to get you to a conclusion, and you don't take it personally if you don't fit their criteria or if they don't fit your criteria. You keep moving, just like you would if you were shopping for an outfit. You wouldn't get offended if you tried something on and it was the wrong color or the wrong size.
absolutely. And I suppose that potentially listening to your answer, I should have really started with a question around those wants and desires. And, we come out and we definitely know what we don't want, and we have these red flags that we will look out for, and then it's almost we focus on that, and we all know what we focus on we bring up, so it almost becomes difficult to ascertain what it is that we actually want. So I realized that working with you, we would go through a process to find that out. But can you give an audience just a smidget of where they might
Sure.
start? Would they go, right, I don't want this, so I'll do a mirror effect of that and look for but where would you start with that?
Great. Such a good question. So you're spot on when you say we're way better at saying what we don't want. And
Mm.
then when I tell someone, okay, what do you want? They reverse it, right? They
Mhm.
go, you know, I didn't like that conservative guy. I want a guy that's very liberal. Or I didn't like that short guy. I want a tall guy. Or I didn't like that guy who kissed like this. I want a guy who kisses like this. Rather than going, I want a guy who wants to learn how I like to kiss. Or
Mm.
I want a guy who is open to talking about politics and learning. I want, a lot of people go, I want a PhD or a master's degree or a X level of this or that, and, an X level in business. And I say, why? And it turns out they say, well, I want him to keep up with me in conversation. Okay, well, then say that. That's why are you assigning a degree to that, right? Keep up with you in a conversation, just that's what you want. You want that's fine, right? That is not offensive. Saying I need this level of education or this level of salary or this level of status is offensive, right? In the same way it's offensive when they go, she has to have this size breasts, right? It's
That's right.
offensive.
Yes.
So we are very offensive and reductive in what we say we want. So a better place to look is to look at your past relationships. And you actually, I have everyone do a relationship history. What were the ratings, head, heart, and hoo-ha for each person you picked? Why did you pick them? Why did you break up? And you do this analysis and you can start to see, oh, I like a guy who brings up new topics. I like a guy who makes decisions. I like a guy who plans dates. I like a guy who pursues me. Okay, that's what you like. Go for what you liked in the past, not what you didn't like in the past. Go for what you did like in the past and build that bear. Like write that list of practical things, wants to live where I want to live, wants to raise kids the way I want to raise kids,
Yeah.
loves the idea of more family. That's head. Like, does it work? Heart, great sense of humor, makes me laugh, thinks I'm funny, makes me feel safe, pursues me. Boom. It's not a million things.
Yes.
Hoo-ha. I like the look of him. I want to kiss him. Like the kind of stuff that I like. Boom. It's not as complicated as we think. We make it so complicated. So 5 to 10 things in each category. Ask yourself why for each
Mhm.
one. As soon as you write it, why tall? I want to feel safe. Okay, right. I feel safe.
Yeah.
Why blue eyes? Because I watched a movie when I was a kid. Why? Not true. You don't need blue eyes. Why even a big dick? Right? Like why?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because if you're a small one, you could have a much nicer guy.
That's right.
So think about it. Really think about why. And half the time I quiz women on why, they're like, it doesn't end up making the list anymore. Half of the time it does, because there's a good why, and half the time it doesn't. So for each thing you're putting on the list, ask yourself why and make sure you have a really good reason that you wouldn't be ashamed to tell people.
Mm.
Is
I
that a
love
good
how
tip?
you sort of said go over the X's and pick out the best ones. So like, building a Frankenstein or, your own
Right.
creation.
Yeah.
I could pick out all the best things about all
Right.
my
There
exes.
was a
Some
reason you
amazing
picked.
humans.
There was a reason you picked each one, and the reason you didn't hold out for one that hit all three, head, heart, and hoo-ha, is because you didn't think it existed. You
Mm.
weren't even trying, right? It's like you weren't even trying to get the size, color, and you know, and style, right?
Yeah.
You weren't trying. You were just trying to get a blue dress because you need a blue dress for the concert, you know? So it's not your fault, but now it's your opportunity slash responsibility to actually shop for all three. Eyes wide open to what you like in all three. Most people don't believe you can have all three. You're supposed to, you can't have it hot and responsible. No, that doesn't exist.
And I think that goes back to that detox and the mindset shift and the the self-care and everything else, and actually allowing yourself to believe that that is quite possible.
So
Because
key.
many of us being scorned kind of go, well, I don't think good men are hard to find. I mean, it's all around us, all the wonderful ones are gay. There are all these phrases
If
because
we just listen to the things I mean, we're so offended by the offensive things that men say, but we say equally offensive things. Like there's no good ones. I can't tell you how many times I hear women say that there's no good ones in my area. And I
yeah,
think, God forbid they hear what you say. It's just, it's so, you would never be okay with somebody saying that about your kid or
no.
your brother or your, it's a whole gender. We're really going to throw a whole gender out or say they're all taken. That's the other thing I want to say is, folks, you're not reading the statistics correctly. There are new men becoming available every single day. New good men. They're becoming available through not only divorce, they're coming available because they got over their divorce, learned from their divorce, sowed their wild oats, and now they're ready for a partner again. So
Mhm.
that happens every day. A man hits that stage where they're now ready for a partner again. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna berate them for wanting to play the field after they haven't gotten laid in 10 years. Let them go play the field and do whatever they want. And then at some point, they will have sowed their oats and had their fun and learned what they needed to learn and felt loved again and felt sexy again. And they'll be looking for their partner. And we don't
Mhm.
know what day that happens. That happens every day for some men.
Yeah.
And some men lose their wives and grieve for a year or two, and then they become available. And some men have a great girlfriend and she picks someone else today,
Yes.
and he's available now. So you can't say there's no good men. That's crazy. It's crazy, and it will ruin you. If you believe it's true, you'll prove it true. And good, more good men for the rest of them, for the rest of the
For the
if
rest
you
of
want
it.
to take yourself out of the game.
Oh my gosh. So I love that. That's so, so very true. I brought it up because, these phrases go around, but there is, like you said, there's no validity in it. I think they stem more from that lack of understanding of what we want, that lack of articulation of our needs, and that hope and belief in, what is actually possible. And it's easier to
And
jump on the bandwagon and say, it's just,
yeah, it's like complaining about the weather, right? Like, and if we say all men suck, then obviously we don't have to be vulnerable. We don't have to try. We don't have to be our best. We don't have to show up great. We don't have to be vulnerable and date. You know, like there's a lot of payoff to that,
Mhm.
to that popular lament that,
Yes.
it's not me, it's all of this gender. That's the problem.
There's the transference of the problem onto others rather than attending to potentially your own issues or traumas potentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, wow, that's a lot. I'm just trying to digest everything you've just said. It's great. So when we've worked through all that, we've got the right mindset, and we're really sort of, would you still look for meeting people in everyday lives, or would you steer yourself more into the direction of the digital world?
Here's again the beauty. You have your kid, you have your focus, you have your life. You do not need to rush, you do not need to stress, you do not need to pressure yourself. Really, I think the most important thing is you relax and you allow and you believe and you get yourself ready and you feel good about it. And then it's up to you how you want to shop, right? If
Hmm.
I need a dress for a fancy event, I can go over to my friend's house and look in her closet, aka go to my friend's party and see who she knows or ask her to set me up with someone, right? So there's no right or wrong way to get the thing you want. You
Mhm.
can walk out on the street and look around and smile at people. You could go to the supermarket and talk to everybody. You could tell all your friends to introduce you to someone. You could hire a matchmaker. You could go on the sites. So there's no, to me, it's foolish to poo-poo the sites. Like,
Mhm.
why would you? That is where all the single people are. It's like go to the mall or go to the department store. Like, why wouldn't you go where all the clothing is if you need a dress? But I also understand if that's very overwhelming and you would like to start in your friend's closet, you can start wherever you want. And wherever some people like meetup groups, some people have hobbies, some people there's all kinds of ways there's literally single people everywhere. They're everywhere.
So
Yeah.
would the online dating be potentially a little bit more buffering, or would you go
I
to your
think
friend
it
and
really depends on the person. But again, I encourage all my clients to go online because, again, just the exercise of creating a good profile, the exercise of getting good pictures and continuing to get good pictures, and the exercise of presenting yourself the way you'd like to be seen by a potential suitor, and then all the exercises of texting back and forth and trying to get a date and having a video chat and checking rapport and starting to understand what are the three H's, how do I rate them? That's invaluable, right? And so I personally would rather you go do that with strangers first than exhaust your friend's Rolodex. Like, I'd rather you start your practice, your 3 months of first time you're in the game. I'd rather you go online and do it where it's anonymous, where you can get out easily, where you're not giving away your phone number, that seems safer and smarter to me to use that. Plus, you can also, even before you're ready, you can still shop. You can look and see, right? And start to go, oh, there's a whole world out there. Oh,
mm.
that's important. It really is like being on the bench in a baseball game where if you don't know the game, you can sit and watch it being played. That's not dumb. That's smart. And that's why I do group coaching with women when they want to get back into dating, because I want them to watch each other in the different stages and learn how the game is played. So they're not just thrown into the game like, okay, hit the ball with the bat. I don't know even how to hold the bat. Oh, run to the base. What base? Like, where's the base? What do I do when I get to the base? I don't know.
So when you do group coaching, you have women at different stages of their relationship journey, so then one can watch and learn from the other. Oh, that's amazing. That's great.
Yeah. And the biggest objection is people are like, I'm not ready yet. And I go, great, no problem. That's a perfect time to sit on the bench and watch how the game is played.
Yeah.
Please. I love a woman who can admit she's not ready. That's very, very mature, actually, and very smart and very safe. So she sits on the bench. And sometimes women will be in the dating and they'll break up with someone and they'll go back on the bench. But we've got our on the benchers who are preparing, doing their work on themselves, improving their relationship to self, their relationship to their bodies, whatever they're working on, and watching. And then we've got the early daters who are hunting,
Mhm.
on the site in real life, getting video dates, getting dates, asking questions, working their profiles, working their pictures, working all the little details of that. I call that, the handheld hunt. And then we've got our early relationships, right? So second date, third date, fourth date, fifth date, seventh date, 10th date, where they're practicing the art of communication and they're having all the sticky conversations and they're getting to the what are our liabilities? Are we compatible truly? Not just the good things, are we compatible with the not so good things? So that is those are kind of the stages and how we cross pollinate because anyone can go to a different stage at any point, right? The
Yeah.
early daters end up in relationships, the relationships end up back dating, the daters go back on the bench, the benchers come off the bench,
I
everyone's
love it.
cross. Yeah.
Once upon a time, you would have had that in a village. Like we would have been surrounded
Right.
by aunties, uncles, girlfriends, whatever, so like other females within that community, and we would observe and learn through, even as children, I suppose, as girls, as growing up and etc. Whereas these days we are so removed that it's
Separated,
great
right.
that you've basically simulated that kind of environment for them to feel supported and well, protected. Yeah, supported and protected. Yes, it's a very safe environment.
It's exactly what it is, right? Because everybody knows everybody else's deal breakers and dreams and goals. And so every time someone goes on a date, they show everybody the 3H charts and everybody chimes in and holds you to account to honor what you said you wanted. And then
Hmm.
when you're freaking out and you're too scared to have a conversation about your herpes or your kid at home or your your need to stay in Minnesota forever or whatever it is,
Yeah.
the group holds you and says, no, it's okay. You're going to be okay. We did it. We survived. You can do it. When
Yeah.
will you get back to us? That you had the conversation. So it is absolutely something that, just like parenting and mothering, breastfeeding, like all
Yeah.
those things that are
Yes.
so much better to do as a team, like with other people. I don't know what I would have done if I had not had I never saw anyone breastfeed ever. I had a baby and I didn't know how to do it, and they don't teach you.
Mhm.
I had to go to a group and meet with an expert and learn how to do it, the most natural thing. And if I had
Yeah.
to do that can you imagine dating with nobody helping you and nobody supporting you? It's harder than
Wow.
breastfeeding.
I think a lot of the members of our group, myself included, can imagine because we've done it, without that support. I mean, but not when you're younger, I suppose. When you're younger, you've got your girlfriends and whatever else, and it's like I said, it's a
Right.
completely different world of dating. But in this, stage of our lives, we are potentially more members of the mothers groups, or dealing with how to support our children, and whatever different groups that deal with life, but not so much this kind of a group of let's get you back out there and show you how it's done. So that's amazing.
Also,
Do
I
you-
don't find women talk about it. I don't think they
Mm,
talk about it as much. That's what I found also on the internet, is that people feel private about it. They feel vulnerable, they feel shy, they feel embarrassed about what they're afraid, right? I'm afraid he'll think my thighs, I'm afraid he'll look at my breasts, I'm afraid about the herpes, I'm afraid about if I could attract. It's really vulnerable stuff that people are afraid about with dating, right? It's different than saying I need help breastfeeding or I need help parenting, which is more socially acceptable to ask for help. So I
yes.
do think it is unique and special to create a community that's safe enough, because I have a private community of my group coaching ladies who are in the system, and then I have a public group. And I notice the difference between, right, in the private group where everybody knows they're safe and it's a self-selecting group of women who are there to learn, there's much more vulnerable sharing. Whereas in the public group, if anyone even talks about sex, it's anonymous and people really don't. It's just not easy to get people talking about it because it's vulnerable and scary.
But do you find that there is a lot of crossover that we all, not all, I'm generalizing, but say there'll be a large percentage of women that are concerned about him looking at their thighs, or like talking about their herpes. We are concerned about the same things. And yet,
Yes.
and if we did speak in that public forum, even,
Yes.
that would make that
It
journey
could.
so much better.
That's what we're trying to do, is normalize it
Yeah.
and de-taboo it, right? Like untaboo it, because it is crazy. I mean, I marvel every day at how women berate their own bodies,
Mm.
including their STIs, but also just their literal bodies. And everyone's doing it. And everybody doesn't think we should be doing it, but they're still doing it.
Still doing
So, to your point, if we talked about it and normalized it, perhaps we could move past it more easily. That's my hope.
Fingers crossed that that is a way of the future. We're certainly challenging all the other societal norms. So
Yeah,
hopefully, if we've pushed past the mental health, so hopefully we'll go push past this thing too. And a younger generation, like our daughters, will have a completely different conversation, life because of it, because of what we're doing now.
exactly.
That is my hope. Anyway,
Beautiful.
sort of veered off there. I can see we're almost at the hour mark, and I know that it's really late where you are, and I don't want to keep you up any further. I've really enjoyed all that you've given us, and you've given us some amazing insights and tools and techniques there. And there's one last question I wanted to ask, are there any other sort of final thoughts or directions or pointers that you can, I know you've already given us plenty, could share with us before we go? Do you work with, sorry, there's a lot of questions being thrown at you at once. Do you
Handle it.
work with Australian mothers?
Sure, sure, sure. I work with people everywhere. Actually, I think Australia is pretty good because it's the opposite time,
Hmm.
right? It's pretty much opposite. So we actually are awake. We are awake at the same time, it's a little bit.
Yes.
So I work with people all over the world in both group coaching and one-on-one coaching. What I would really recommend is that if you are someone who's not sure you're ready to date yet,
Hmm.
but you want to know if you're ready or not, or you feel ready, but you don't know what to do or how to do it, or you're
Mhm.
dating and you're getting frustrated and disappointed, or you're about to give up, or you've already given up, but you'd like to be convinced to come back. If you're in any of those places, I would just go and watch my free webinar. It's called
Okay.
the Three Secrets to Finding and Maintaining Healthy Love. So it really goes over, again, tactics and strategies, right?
Hmm.
How to believe in love again, how to get ready, how to do the three H's. If you want that broken down as how do you articulate what you want, how to do the 3 date strategy. It's very tactical, it's very practical, it's very seminal. Like it's a very good first bite of
Hmm.
what I'm trying to teach, and it's free, right? So there's no risk involved. So I really recommend that to anyone if you're in any of those positions I just named. The other thing I'll give you just as another hot tip is the video chat. I know it's just a simple thing that I want to end on because I didn't get to say it, but it's one of the hacks that makes dating so much less fatiguing and disappointing, which is if you meet someone online or you're introduced to someone through a friend and you think you might be interested, please don't go out to coffee with them yet before you have a 10-minute video chat. And say, I want to have a video chat with you so we can see how our chemistry is. Say
Oh,
it directly. Let's have a 10-minute video chat to see if we have chemistry. Because the number one way to waste your time,
yeah.
there's two ways, but
And get frustrated.
I'll say the number one way to waste your time is to want to do something rather than nothing. And so having dates with someone you're not attracted to or they're not attracted to you. It's very common. Another common thing is to text back and forth to stay entertained when there's no practical way the relationship could ever work. There's no trust being built, there's no practicality of you guys being together, but you want to, entertain each other or keep each other company in a period of time where you really actually can't be dating, right? And so you're
Yeah.
just texting, and it
Obviously.
creates fatigue. It creates fatigue and it creates disappointments, right? So what I'm trying to do is you're either in or you're out. If you're in, you're always going to vet someone with a 10-minute video chat. If the video chat's going great, make it an hour. I don't care. Stay on as long as you want. But 10 minutes to see, does he look like how he described himself? Do you look like someone he's interested in? And
Hmm.
is the rapport good? Is the banter good? So it is such a hack where you cannot discover this in a text and you do not want to waste. You're gonna have to get a babysitter to go out with the person. You want to
Yeah.
know if you're gonna he needs
Made
to want
up,
to kiss.
ready, travel there, etc.
Such an investment. I can't imagine how anyone doesn't get so fatigued and disappointed if they're not using that video chat hack.
Hmm.
So that's just a little freebie, helpful hint for everyone. Use the video chats, be honest, tell them why. If you never hear from them again, assume you didn't meet their hoo-ha criteria. If they don't hear from you again, they'll know why.
Yeah.
It's clean, it's easy, no one gets attached, no one wastes their time, money, or mascara.
And it's quite confrontational to meet someone, both in person and online. If it's going to be too difficult for you to do online like this, well, then you got your answer. And
And even the benefits are so numerous, right?
yes,
You find out if they can, just like you said, you find out if they even can get on a video chat with you. Very helpful. You
yeah.
can see the kids in the background. You can hear if there's a wife in the background. You can, are they in their car? What kind of car? Like it's really a good conversation starter. And if that's your person, it's going to be no problem to have a video chat. They'll understand why you want one, and they'll be glad to do it, and it'll be great.
Amazing.
Those are my closing thoughts.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. This whole interview has been so insightful. I found a lot of nuggets in it for myself, let alone for the community. I'm sure they're going to be picking up different bits and pieces that's going to really resonate. I'll ensure to put all your links, including the ones you mentioned of the webinar, in at the bottom show notes and through all of our social posts as well, so that those mums that wish to take advantage of working with you and start that journey through that little freebie, that would be amazing. And they've got the access to that there. Again, thank you so very much. I really appreciate your time and I look forward to sharing this with our community.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today for another uplifting and guiding chat with one of our guests. For all the links mentioned in this episode, please see the show notes or visit the full episode write-up on beanstalkmums.com.au. If you enjoy this podcast, please follow us and leave us up to a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. That's a terrific way to support us, absolutely cost-free. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for upcoming guests or topics that you'd like us to cover on the next episode, please leave us a comment here or head over to our webpage, beanstalkmums.com.au/topics/podcast, and leave us a voicemail there on a very cute little widget. If you are not already following us on social media, we are Beanstalk Mums on all platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Pinterest. And on all of those platforms, we explore the ups and downs of being a single mum in today's world. We uplift and support you on your journey, providing you with a community of your own through the Single Mum Vine on Facebook. And of course, our website holds an extensive library of articles written by single mums for single mums on topics that make our life happier, easier, and healthier. If you haven't yet subscribed to our Beanstalk newsletter, that's a great free way of connecting with us fortnightly. The newsletter includes podcast summaries, newest articles published that month, spotlights on specific businesses that we have vetted just for you, as well as little PDF gifts from worksheets, checklists, planners, journals, and any other tools that may help you to thrive in this single mum life. So just follow the link in the show notes to sign up. Thank you once again for joining me for this episode, and I look forward to chatting to you and bringing you our next guest the following month. Take care.